Hi everyone, this is Rohan, and in this video I'm going to discuss about architectural planning. Now, before I start with the actual theory of architectural planning, I want you to have a look at this picture. I want you to look at this picture and think how this space has been designed. Now, this was obviously an open plot of land before, and this could have been just a rectangular shaped building, but had it had the same effect on you that this building is having right now, don't you feel a bit odd? Don't you feel that this is an awesome design? So who is responsible for that? Architecture or architects are responsible for that. So what is architecture? Architecture is the art and the science of designing spaces. As you can see, this is not just science, this is pure art. And it is the space organization for utility to facilitate function. That means it's not just a designing of space, it is a purposefully designed space so that it can be utilized, and so that whatever its functions are there, they can be carried out properly. For example, this looks like a place where somebody would stay, so that is the function. So this is the utility to facilitate the function. Now, architecture works at bigger levels, macro levels like buildings, townships, etc., and even at very small levels like micro levels like furniture, construction details, etc. However, in this lecture, we are going to restrict ourselves to buildings. So, we are going to think of architecture as the process and the product of planning, designing, and the construction of buildings. All right. Now, here you have to understand that the documents that are produced by the architects in the form of drawings, plans, technical specifications, etc., it actually defines the building as well as it defines the behavior of the building. That means how the people in the building interact with the building, and how the functions that are happening in the building are facilitated by the design. Okay. Now, architectural works in the form of structures are often perceived as cultural symbols and as a work of art. Now, once there is an architectural marvel anywhere in the world, it becomes an icon of that place. It becomes a landmark. It becomes a global symbol. It becomes a cultural symbol and a work of art. And even historical civilizations are often identified with their surviving architectural achievements. So, I am going to take you through a series of pictures just showing you what are the different historical architectural forms. Just look at these pictures and see how each and every form of architecture is different from each other, thereby giving it a unique identity of its own. For example, I'll start with Egyptian architecture. The moment you see this kind of structures, the first thing that comes to your mind is Egypt. The main reason responsible for it is the architecture behind it, which is the Egyptian architecture. Next is the Greek architecture with its huge pillars. Even till date, when we have huge universities, we see a lot of the universities mimicking this kind of an architectural structure because of the ancient history of literature and education that Greece holds. So we still take inspiration to this date from the old civilization architectures. Then third is the Oriental architecture, the Chinese, the Japanese kind of architecture, which is the sloped up corners. This is very common even in today's any of the Oriental restaurants, the Chinese restaurants. Sometimes you see even in metropolitan cities, they have a design like this. Why? So that they can give you the feel that you are entering a Oriental space. Okay. Then the fourth one is the Hindu architecture, which is very common in the Hindu temples. If you see this kind of an architecture, you automatically get reminded of the Hindu architecture. The Ram Mandir, which is being constructed now, is going to be a Hindu architecture. Even, I mean, if I have to give you example from popular culture, if you think of Bahubali, the sets, all of those things where Hindu architecture. Then let's come to Islamic architecture. Yes, it is when you see these domes and these minars, automatically they give you the feel of the Islamic architecture, as well as this curved cornices, right? So this is typical of Islamic architecture, and even till date there are so many mosques which are being built. There are so many hospitals which are run by Islamic trusts. So they take inspiration from this kind of architecture, which is the Islamic architecture. Then you have the Victorian architecture, which comes from the Great Britain. So wherever in India you have the British Raj was there, so you get to see this kind of. If you see old Bombay or you see old Calcutta, you will get to see this kind of architecture, Victorian architecture. And lastly, I would like to show you modern architecture, which is quite abstract, quite bold, quite edgy, you can say, and quite curved in certain places, right? So just by showing this picture, I wanted to show you that just by looking at these pictures, you can see how unique each of these structures are, and it is nothing but the function of the architecture at that time and moment. So let us explore this more by knowing what are the principles of architecture. So basically, I am going to discuss certain principles of architecture, which are going to be unity, contrast, mass composition, proportion, scale, accentuation and rhythm, materials for the exterior, and expression. I'm going to discuss all of this in detail now. So let's start with unity. Okay, what does unity mean? It means oneness. It means the harmony amongst the elements of the entire building. It gives coherence to the part and integrity to the whole. And the unity of architectural composition lies in its concept, not in the units or elements. And therefore, to maintain unity in architectural design, some central or focal idea creating some interesting accent has to be there, right? Here, you see, if you have suppose you have two buildings which are actually belonging to the same organization, but if these two are apart from each other, then this causes duality. What does duality mean? It is the opposite of unity. If people look at it, they will not think that these two are the part of the same building, isn't it? Secondly, if you have a many number of buildings which are connected to each other like this, one by the other, then it will create competition. Competition means what? Neither of these buildings will get what do you say, an accent or a privilege. Okay, so this creates competition. Again, this looks very boring. Okay, so how can we overcome this? Yes, if we can connect this with a building a little taller than this, then we can achieve the unity. Secondly, here also, if we can have a building just rising above the rest, then we can duality and competition, we can relieve them by dominating accent. Okay, so here in this case duality has been removed, in this case even the competition has been removed. This automatically is getting accented, this automatically is getting accented. Even this can be achieved through texture, colors and tones. Let me explain this to you with the help of an example. This is of course the famous Taj Mahal hotel in Mumbai. Here you see the unity. There are so many units in this hotel, but this thing as a whole is connected. This thing as a whole is connected. Thereby you can see the unity. Secondly, had all of this been of the same height and same shape, then again it would have gone boring. It would have been it would have caused the problem of competition. So here you see what you have. You have a central rise here, so that it is creating a nice accent here, so that the competition is removed. So this is a good example of you can say unity. The next thing that I want to talk about is contrast, because if you want to achieve too much of unity, sometime it can become monotony. What is contrast? Contrast is actually the absence of monotony. Now, as I told you, too much of harmonious unity can create monotony, and monotony can reduce the interest of the viewer. What is the point of doing all this architecture? It has to, when you look at that architecture, you have to feel interested, right? So if monotony reduces interest, then it it goes against the purpose. So contrast may be achieved in shape, size, mass and tone. So again, a well conceived contrast may result in serious harm to our harmony. I mean, if you have too much of contrast, again that will remove harmony. So such harm should be minimized. So what I'm trying to say here is, don't go for too much of harmony. Also don't go for too much of contrast. There has to be a good balance between the two. Again, with the same photo I will show you here. Just see, just the contrast. There are two different colors used here, as well as this has been used in a different color. A little bit of height of the building has been increased here, so a little bit of contrasts are available here. However, as a whole it is unity. So as you can see here, they have kind of achieved a middle path between unity and contrast. Then let us go on to the third point, which is mass composition, which is very important to understand. You see that mass composition refers to the visual effect of a body. The 3D visual quality of a building is its mass. Okay, now of course when we listen to the word mass, we think of the weight and the mass and all that. However, it is not that case in here. Mass has some relation to the size of the building, but it has no relation to the weight of the building. Okay, let me explain. If you have, say, length and the breadth of the building are large compared to the height, then we call it as a horizontal mass. And if the height of a building is large compared to the length and the breadth, then it is called as a vertical mass. Okay, now on the basis of proper balance in composition, harmony and weighted adjustment, different masses can develop and satisfy the viewer with reference to relative importance of the various elements of the design. Now, just see here, I am just going to show you certain boxes, and just by looking at the relative position, you yourself will be able to tell which part of the building is important and which part of the building is not that important. Okay, so let's go forward with that. Here you see there are three horizontal masses, two masses a little pushed back, a little smaller in height, and this central mass is a little higher and a little pushed forward. Now, which of the three do you think hold the dominance here? Of course, you're right. It's this. But how did you decide? How did you decide? All of these are the same color. I didn't tell you what kind of a building is it. Is it an office? Is it a shopping mall? Is it whatever? I didn't tell you. But just by looking at the massing and the composition, your brain automatically told you that this is the part which must be the holding the dominance, isn't it? Similarly, for vertical masses or massing also, if you see this picture, automatically your brain tells you that this central part, which is a little taller as well as a little push forward, is the one which is holding the dominance or relative importance. So again, your brain told this to you without me giving any important details to you, isn't it? So this is the beauty of mass composition. Now next is I'm going to discuss proportion, but let me tell you beforehand only, I'm going to discuss proportion and scale side by side because they have to be discussed together. So what is proportion? Proportion is the visual effect of the relationships of the various objects and spaces that make up a structure to one another and to the whole. That means what? It is the ratio of the different sizes. The actual size doesn't matter. The entirety, it is entirely a matter of the relationship. That is the ratio of the sizes. It is not the actual size but the relative size of one from the other. All right, that is proportion. Unless the proportion is correct to the scale of conception, it would be a violation not only of conception, but it will mislead the perception and do harm to the character of the building. Okay, I will demonstrate this to you a little later. Let us also understand together what is scale. Okay, now scale means the proper relationship of several parts to another and to the whole from aspect of size. That means you see there are various parts of a building, starting from the gate to the front porch to the actual building and stuff like that. Now you can have two kinds of scale here. Okay, first is the intimate scale, that means a smaller scale, and the second one is the monumental scale. Monumental scale. Now just see that, you think, if you have, let's say, a ground floor or a ground floor plus one bungalow, how would you want its gate to be? Would you want it to be too grand? If the gate is too huge and too grand, then your building will look very timid, very small in front of it. So, in such a case, you might want to go for a gate like this, isn't it? And you see, if you say you have a huge housing complex, say with 8 buildings, 8 wings, and whatnot, with swimming pool and other amenities, and if you have a small gate like this, okay, what will be the impression that the people from outside will hold? That it's a small complex. But if you have a huge gate like this, okay, then what people will understand? Okay, I can think that something great is there inside. So here, scale and proportion, you see, this is also proportion, right? I mean, to the building height, if the gate is higher than the building height, then the proportion goes wrong. So the proportion also has to be right, as well as the scale also has to be right. So wherever intimate scale is there, you have to choose intimate scale. Wherever monumental scale is there, you have to choose monumental scale. Then rhythm and accentuation. What is rhythm? Any repetitive occurrence of a particular pattern is called as a rhythm. Of course, you know, in music, if there is a beat that comes after one and the other, it is called as a rhythm. Okay. Now, rhythm may also be created to successive decrease or increase in the size of a chosen pattern. In buildings, you can use this rhythm very nicely. I'll show you. Here, this is a building of Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation. Here you see these pillars here are creating a rhythm. That means, and also this lines, these are creating a rhythm which creates a, very unifying experience, and, a very interesting design here. But if you have the same pattern, same rhythmic pattern going on throughout the building, then it becomes boring. For example, if you listen to a song, and if the same beat is playing from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, 100% that song is going to be boring, right? So in music also, and here in architecture also, we use accentuation. After viewing any space, a person always has a special feeling about a special element. Okay, now while looking at this, some elements stand out, like this element and this element. These are nothing but the accents. Now here, after this rhythm, this comes, and then from back again this thing will come, the same rhythm. But what it created is, it broke the rhythm, it created an interesting influence here, and then again letting you continue with the rhythm. This feeling is because of the impression, emphasis, rigidity, firmness, and function of these elements. This emphasis of the element is termed as accentuation. What is rhythm? If there is a repeated pattern, it is called as a rhythm. And what is accentuation? If that rhythm is again broken, periodically by certain elements, that is called as accentuation. All right, last few left. Materials for exterior. Oh, very important. I'm actually not going to read all of this. You can read this, but I'm just going to show this to you with an example. These two figures, if you see, these are almost, the sizes are equal. It is G plus 1. Most probably this is G plus 3. However, the scale is almost the same, but just see, just by treating the exteriors differently. Now this is, I shouldn't be judging, but this is kind of boring. However, this here looks quite interesting. We don't even know what is inside. However, this is a factory building, and this is a office space. So here you see the exterior doesn't attract you that much. However, the exteriors kind of, appeals to you. Why is that? Because of the material, material of the exterior. However the material is on the exterior, it is going to be appealing. As we say in Hindi, jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. So here on the exterior, it is very important to portray a very positive image, so that the insides are well represented on the outside. And lastly, expression. Expression represents a certain a creation of a building and represents the harmony through color code, shapes and lines. Expression can be external expression, that is physical form, external features, and it can be internal expression for interior spaces and disposition, etc. Architectural expression strongly shapes man's psychology and influences his aesthetical sensitivity. I'm going to simply put these two figures, okay? Both are schools. However, one is a pre primary school and the other one may be a high school. Just look at the way the interiors have been designed for both. Okay, here a lot of colors are there, and here kind of a much more serious kind of a what do you say, environment has been created. Now, had this you had a lion here, you had a flower here, and you had college students or high school students, they would have felt out of space. So it is very important to portray whatever we are trying to express both internally and externally. Here I have shown the inside, because all the previous examples that I have given were for the external. So thereby I end this video with one example of internal expression. So that's all for today. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comments below. Thank you for your time.